Hi, my name is Lara and welcome to Inner Goddess Guidance. This channel is designed for people who consider themselves divine feminine on the twin flame path, but also for any woman really. I mean, it could be anybody, but I think mostly women will be attracted to this channel who want to work deeply to claim their own journey toward healing and self-mastery. So welcome, and I've done some deep thinking about the channel and ways to improve it, and I've decided that today I'm going to focus on a message first before I call in the goddess energy and the healing card and the affirmation. And today I want to talk about the journal specifically and the value of journaling. So I've written some notes. I'm going to pull those up. And I brought some samples of journals that I have made. I want to talk about the value of journaling specifically. So there are many reasons that a journal is valuable. If you're not somebody who practices journaling, I know that a lot of people think that a journal is a daunting process. Maybe you were sort of traumatized in school about your capacity to write or your ability to write. Maybe that intimidates you. Maybe you're worried about somebody coming across your journal and what you might say in your journal. And what I want to say about that is your journal and how you choose to do that is totally up to you. I want to share with you why I think that writing or putting your thoughts and ideas down in writing is a particularly potent way for coming in touch with your own healing process and then claiming responsibility for it. So some advantages to journaling. And I would say that the time that you invest in journaling could be as little as 10 minutes a day. It could be much longer, depending on how you feel about it or the day. So the first reason that journaling is important is that it gives you time to reflect. So time, your time and effort is an investment. And what we invest our time and effort into, we receive rewards from. So all of us know that if we're going to invest time and effort in, for example, the gym, right? If you spend 10 minutes a day in the gym, you're going to get a certain reward or see certain outcomes of that. If you invest a half an hour a day in the gym, you're going to see different outcomes. If you spend an hour a day, even more, right? So the amount of time that you invest in anything is often indicative of the rewards you're going to get. So when you decide to journal, you are making an investment of your time and energy, and that is going to directly lead to the kinds of rewards that you can get from it. And the time and effort will correlate to the amount of advancement that you make in the journey, okay? Another reason is that journaling allows you to slow down enough to really ponder. So our thoughts go a million miles a minute. And oftentimes we'll have a thought and it might be a good thought. We think, wow, that was really inspirational. That was really good. And then you forget it. What the journal allows you to do, or writing in any form allows you to do, is to take note. And as you're taking note to write down your thought, you are working with that thought. In teaching, we used to say that if you hear something, you only retain a little bit. And I don't know what the exact specific amount is, but you can think if you hear something, you retain this much. If you see and hear something, you retain a little bit more. If you see it and you hear it and you say it, you retain even more. If you see it, you hear it, you say it, you write it, you're going to actually retain even more information. So the amount that you're working with that idea has to do with the amount that you're going to understand it. And then, of course, the ultimate is to translate your seeing, your hearing, your speaking, your writing into your actions, because that's full integration. So that's another reason. It's a very mindful process when you take time to work out your thoughts and work out your thinking, even if you change your mind later. So just because you put it down in writing doesn't mean it needs to be a grand thought. Because later you can go back and you can refine that idea. I think that we often think that if we put something into words, it's got to be something that somebody else is going to read and find valuable. And that's not always the purpose of writing. Writing in and of itself can be a personal way of taking a look at your thoughts. So slowing yourself down enough to bring thoughts onto a paper so that later you can go back and take a look and really be mindful and work with that thought. Journals also allow you to go back. So it's a record. And as you record your thoughts and your experiences and you're working through them, you are able then to gain perspective because you go back into the record and you can review it. And reviewing means to essentially look at something again. The more you take time to look at something again and reconsider it, the more you can figure it out. So for example, in a healing journey, I might ask a question of I noticed today that I was really aware of judgments from other people. I was very self-conscious, let's say, in the supermarket, or I was very aware of people being rude to me on the road. Whatever you're becoming aware of, just to write an awareness of it, later on at some point, you can always go back and say, oh, I remember I felt this before. Now, where does that really come from? Let me take a look at that and figure out when was the first time that I felt judgment in my life, and how can I get past that fear of judgment? That would be an example. Another reason that journaling is important is that the word is a powerful declaration. The word is a powerful declaration. I've heard many quotes about words and the power of words. We all know that words have the capacity to inspire us and also to hurt us. There are lots of quotes that I refer back to that are inspirational to me, that give me sort of a divine guidance, and that's what inspiration means. It breathes life into you. It gives you motivation. And so when you are writing your own thoughts, you are making a declaration. It's one reason why we want to be really, really careful with our words. If you spend a lot of time complaining, for example, that's the reality that you are going to create. If you're spending more time in appreciation and gratitude, that is the vibration or the reality that you are going to create. So in your journal, when you are writing the word, you are almost declaring your reality. You are declaring your truth. And I remember hearing a quote that really stood out to me by a man named Ryan Keyes, who has, I think, a Facebook group. He does YouTube videos. He's a divine masculine. He talks about twin flames and has written a book. And I heard him say something one time, and I had to write it down. I actually went and asked him. Again, I found his Facebook page, and I said, hey, I remember this quote. Can you clarify it for me? And the quote was this: thoughts are like meditations. Words are like mantras. Thoughts are like meditations. Words are like mantras. And it was such a resonant truth for me, because I had become aware that I needed to gain more control over my thoughts, particularly my automatic negative thoughts. Those thoughts that I brought with me from childhood, wherever they started, whatever truth that I brought in with me, those negative thoughts were, they were harshing my vibe. And I needed to gain self-mastery. I needed to say, those thoughts don't serve me. And the same goes for obviously our words, both spoken as we speak our truth to other people. We all know that if somebody has spoken negatively, and I experience this whether they speak negatively about themselves or about others or about me, that it can be hurtful and it can drag me down. It can be really, really negative. So in your journal, when you're writing, to become conscious of your words, that your words are a declaration of your reality. So what reality are you choosing to write? And even if you are working through a problem, the way that you manage to work through it can make all the difference, right? Whether you're coming from a standpoint of claiming that you're a victim and screw all these people and whatever is your way of feeling victimized, or whether you are with the intention of trying to figure out what was my accountability in this issue, what role did I play, how can I empower myself? That's a totally different kind of way. So when you're using words, be aware that they are a kind of declaration of creating a reality. And so your journal can be a way to do that. Your journal can also be a way to claim your story. So that really dovetails into the last one, which is that we are not a victim of our circumstance. We are actually co-creating our reality. And your journal allows you to do that, to play around with co-creating your reality. That yes, I mean, we're not in charge of the weather and you're in a hurricane and it destroys your house. I mean, that you had no control over that. But to recognize where you do have control and how you do create your reality, to sort of be able to go back in and rewrite a story, to think, for example, how would I have handled this situation differently next time? Something happens, you're in an argument, and you're working through, why was I triggered in that situation to argue or to get angry? So you're asking that question. You might go back in and say, well, how, if I were to rewrite that story, how would I rewrite it differently? What could I do different next time? That enables you to co-create your story. And as you're doing that, you are working with healing because you are setting an intention and giving your brain, just on a neurological level, you're giving your brain options that it didn't know in the moment it had. So the next time you get in a situation that is triggering that same response, your brain already knows that it has options. You're not following necessarily your what some people refer to as your lower vibrational self, your instinctual side, your sort of animal side that's just responding or reacting. You're actually able to make choices and respond in the situation. And that's because you've worked through it in writing. You've recreated that moment. It's there. And then the last thing that I wrote down as a reason to keep a journal is that you can track your progress that way. You can actually go back in time and you can see something that you were struggling with and asking questions about, and then see how it's changed for you. Oh, I remember 2 weeks ago I was triggered by the same thing. You can actually go back and track your progress. That would be the same as sort of tracking your progress in the gym over losing weight or the amount of weights that you're lifting or whatever, to keep a record of it so that it's tangible for you. It gives you something tangible. So those are some of the things that I came up with for why I think that journaling is a valuable process. And again, it's not something you need to invest a huge amount of time in or make a momentous thing. I know lots of people that say, I've got journal after journal after journal that I've started and I can't keep up with it. Well, that's the same thing that a lot of us do with diets or working out. We do it for 3 weeks. We're really feeling good about it. And then we let it go for whatever reason. And what I want to say about that is just because you've let it go in the past doesn't mean that you'll let it go in the future. And even if you were to let it go for a day or two, well, so what? You just start again. You just start again. You don't lose what you've done. You just start again. And so I wanted to show you some journal examples myself and ways that you can claim your journal as your own. First of all, the easiest for a lot of people is to use the Notes app on your phone. I have actually used my Notes app a lot throughout the day as things come to me. I might not have my journal handy, but unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, this is a new appendage to my body and it's always with me. And the Notes app, I think I have like 170 notes in there. It gives me a place to write things down. I can choose to go back to that at another time and put it in my journal, or I just have it available there. But then when I want to reference a quote, for example, like I did with the Ryan Keyes quote, I have it available for myself. I often keep track of signs and synchronicities there. I'm often taking pictures of those kinds of things, as I'm sure some of you do as well. So that is one place to keep track, and it is a kind of journal. You are writing things down in that and keeping track of stuff. Another kind of journal, which I was exploring with my students a few years ago, is a journal that is really interactive and allows you to express your creativity. So you can use, I went out and bought some beautiful Sharpies that were a bunch of different colors, and I just used it as a way to inspire myself. So you can see I did a lot of drawing on here. I wrote on this one, believe, inspiration, catch a wave, know yourself, know your power. Belief makes things happen. Dark shadows will not cross my path. Another day I was working on other ones, and I let these develop. Like you can see there's a whole space here that's still empty that over time I could fill up. But here's I was doing an angel wing and I filled that with information or writing. I am perfectly imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. Still becoming perfectly. And then on this one, of course, I am limitless. I am a spiritual being having a human experience, which was a quote I heard from, I think it was Wayne Dyer. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And just put like an image of a person standing on top of a rainbow with a nice auric field around and arms up in joy. I trust the process of life to take care of me. And behind that, it's really, really hard to see, but is a hand. It's like the hand of the divine, like guiding me. And then you can use it to keep track of things like cards. You know, sometimes somebody gives you something special. You come across an inspirational card. This one was inspirational to me. My mother gave it to me when I was going through a separation with my husband. One day she knew she must follow her heart. I did one for my body. My body is divine. Be still and know that you are. I am perfect. I am beautiful. Toes to fingerprint tips. I am healthy, and some other stuff. You can even get more interactive. I put a card in here. I picked a tarot card. Well, it's not a tarot card. It's an oracle card, kind of. It was a healing card that I had, and it was one I wanted to pull out and keep in there always. And then, you know, a picture that I really loved about myself. I'm really taking the time to sort of decorate that page beautifully with some glitter and some things that I had. So that's an example. And this, of course, is a special journal. It's all nicely bound and in leather, and it makes it even more special to have something like that. So that's two kind of journals, the Notes app, and then, you know, an interactive journal like this. And then, of course, there's just, you know, getting a notebook and just filling that up, you know. So this is one example of a notebook that I've filled up over time. And I actually use journals like that to even keep track of daily goals and what I want to achieve during the great day and what I got done during the day. So those are my examples of journals for you. A journal does not have to be a big thing. Honestly, it could be something that you write things on a sticky note. You go back and you, at the end of the day, take the sticky notes and tape them into your journal. A journal could be something where you write on a separate sheet of paper during the day, and then you put an envelope into your journal and then tuck that message right on into your envelope. One thing that I do occasionally for myself is I will buy and write myself cards, and I have an example of that here. Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. So I really love hummingbirds, and I saw this card, and then I decided that I wanted to write myself a love letter. And so I wrote myself a love letter, the kind of love letter that the divine might write to me. And I'm not going to share it, but it's beautiful, and it's filled with love, and it could easily go in a pocket or be taped into my journal so that I could refer to it later. So that's the value of journaling experience, and I hope that you have maybe heard some tips and that you don't feel intimidated by the journal, because what I've found is if you just start even a little bit a day, even if all you did was write your daily affirmation and a daily gratitude, that alone would be a step in the right direction. So we don't expect you to, nobody expects you to go to the gym one day and like come out of the gym after one day and be perfectly transformed, right? So it's the same thing with journaling. It's a process, and just be gentle with yourself with the process. So what if you skip a day? No big deal. Pick it up when it calls to you again. But I really encourage you to try to make it a daily process for yourself, because the more you do that, the more you invest, the more you'll get out of it. Okay, so today we're going to pull an inner goddess. Why do I keep calling it inner goddess? It's a goddess oracle card, and I'm not going to do the invocation today because I think I left it in the other room. So we'll just go ahead and ask Spirit to please be with us as we pull a goddess oracle card message for today. Thank you. Since this one no. Okay, well, that was too many. But I'm going to do the one that fell the farthest. That's what we'll do. Oh, good one. Changing Woman. I love Changing Woman, because we're all changing all the time. I just love the name, Changing Woman. I like to think of myself as a changing woman. So I know she's a Navajo goddess. Let's find out what she has to say to us. Changing Woman, cycles. I am what comes round again and again, that can never die. I renew myself in the seasons, in the cycle of time, the great round. I bleed yet do not die. I keep my blood within and become wise. I dance the spiral and keep changing. Changing Woman can change her age merely by walking into the horizon. White Shell Woman and Turquoise Woman are among her many names, which correspond to the changing colors of her dress as the seasons change. The Navajo say that she was found by Coyote after being born of darkness and dawn on Spruce Mountain with a blanket of clouds and rainbows, secured in her cradle board by lightning and sunbeams. Her gifts to the people are the blessing way ceremonies, the seasons, and food. Changing Woman comes spinning into your life to tell you the way to wholeness for you lies in learning to honor your cycles. Menstrual cycles are an important aspect of being female. We bleed but do not die, and therefore can bring forth life. As we continue to dance our cycles, we reach the time of menopause when we leave our childbearing years behind and hold our wise blood within. We can then be a resource for our loved ones and community by becoming hags, which means women of wisdom. Do you celebrate your menstruation and view it as a time for you to go within? As a time to let go, let die, so the new can come? Or have you bought into the patriarchal view that it is a curse, something unclean, something to be hidden away? Does menopause automatically fill you with fear of becoming old and ugly, no longer valuable and worthy in a culture that adores youth? Do you feel invalidated in a society that urges women to hide their bleeding times, regulate their hormones by taking pills, and postpone menopause through ERT, estrogen replacement therapy? Honoring your cycles also means honoring your own unique process, your own unique path. You may be in the midst of a particular life cycle that you need to surrender to and honor. Changing Woman says that wholeness is nurtured when we reclaim the power of our cycles by paying attention to them and celebrating them. By celebrating our cycles, we celebrate ourselves as women. So today you might think about what cycles you are in. My son is in his last year of high school. Next year will be his last year, and so we're going through the process of finding colleges for him, and I'm really aware of the fact that it is the end of a cycle. By being aware that it is the end of a cycle, my having my son at home to nurture, and that he's ready to go out into the world, being mindful of that cycle, I can become more immersed in it and aware of it, and to savor it instead of allowing it to take me on a ride. I feel like I am, again, sort of like the co-creating. I'm co-creating. I'm aware of the cycle, and I get to savor it. I get to watch him become a young man, more and more independent. But the time that I do get to spend with him is just such a blessing. So be aware of what cycle you are in. Are you at a time where you are ready for a partnership? Are you just becoming a mother? Are you exploring your own professional path, creating your career? Are you in a process of working through things with parents, maybe illnesses, letting go, coming to terms with death? There's lots of parts of the process that can be cycles that we all go through. So think about your cycles today. What cycle are you in? And what gifts does that cycle hold? Just one last thing. So for example, in terms of the gifts, when I'm thinking about my own cycle, my son going off, I'm also aware that as this cycle ends, and it's sort of bittersweet, there's a cycle beginning. And the cycle that's beginning is that I get to make choices about my future. Again, without the same kind of responsibilities that I had in the past. And that's a beautiful thing, that I get to explore where I want to live, if I want to relocate, or that kind of stuff. So be aware of what cycles you're ending, where you are in a cycle, but also, what's kind of coming up, what's on the horizon. All right. So in your journal, you would write, Changing Woman, cycles. Anything that stood out to you in that message that inspired you or spoke to you, just a few words. You might have thought about some cycles and jotted those down in your journal or on your phone app. Okay, and now we're going to we're going to ask for a healing card so we can focus on a particular healing aspect of the day. Spirit, would you please give us one healing card for what we can put attention on today? I'm going to focus on a particular aspect of our healing, please. Oh. Okay. Break negative habits. Today's lesson: be cognizant of one negative practice you engage in that causes you to lose power, and work on changing that situation. This could be thinking, negative thoughts, overeating, or being constantly late. Your goal: to recognize that modifying or releasing unproductive habits can be challenging and even unpleasant, but it's essential that you do so. So, when we're thinking about creating an affirmation today from these two cards, combining the message, we've got Changing Woman, that's all about cycles. And we've got letting go of negative habit, right? And what I would say is that we are co-creating. We are in Changing Woman, right? As women, we can embrace that change. We can recognize that habits that we've created in the past may not be serving us in the present. So what is one negative habit that you have that you can release? And you might just want to say, I can release habits that no longer serve me. Today, I choose to release a habit that no longer serves me. Today, I begin to release negative habits that no longer serve me. I know exactly what my negative habit is. I'm going to work on that today. And then every time I want to engage in that habit, that's a negative habit, I can repeat my affirmation to myself. I choose to release this negative habit that no longer serves me today. Okay? So those are the messages for today. Thank you for joining me. And this is what I would like you to do. Would you please bless me by making one comment in the comment section about some piece of either the talk at the beginning, the information about Changing Woman, the bad habits or the negative habits, or the affirmation, some thought or idea, some inspiration that you took away, something that had meaning for you. So, I really appreciate, or it made me think about, you might start your comment with something like that. I ask you to do that in part because I want to know what you're thinking and experiencing. But more than that, I want you guys that are watching to become teachers of each other. And I think that what that enables people to do is to begin to talk about what they were resonating with or what their own recognition was. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye-bye. Oops, wrong one.